Ladies and gentlemen, WWE Raw Top Takeaways. I got 14 takeaways. I'm going to hit it with the review as well. This is the new type of review. Going to be nice and quick. Cutting out all the fluff. I'm going to get down right to it. Feel free to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well if you like weekly wrestling reviews. So we're going to hop right on into it, and we're going to start with the end. First, doing something new this week, and also I want to save the big dog for last. So we're going to hop right on into it. My first takeaway, Batista did what? Batista, Ric Flair. We had the happy birthday celebration for Ric Flair. We had all the pomp and circumstance, the balloons, the cake, the big goldie belt, which they call the WWE Championship, just pierced my WCW heart. But that's beside the point. We had the celebration. We had Sting out there, Ricky Sting, but we had all the legends out there, all the roster out there. So we ran the Ric Flair video. Ric Flair was coming down, and there was no Ric Flair. And the first thing I said was, man, Becky Lynch is back there dragging Ric Flair. So they cut to the back, and that's Batista. He drags the cameraman to Ric Flair's dressing room, and I'm like, okay, he's dragging the cameraman there to show them what they did to Becky Lynch. So he closes the door, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, he's going in on Ric Flair. So he drags Ric Flair's body out on the floor by a blazer, looks at Triple H and says, do I have your attention now? Puts a CM Punk, do I have your attention now? And it was phenomenally done. Triple H rushes to the back, checks on Rick. We fade to black, excuse me. So this was greatly done. We got rarely does WWE pull out a great swerve on us. And we were all expecting Becky, and we got Batista. And everybody just lost it on Twitter, me included. Now, the only thing that took me down, like, I love that we're getting heel Batista back. I always did love the me Batista. I always thought that was the best Batista. And it's looking like we're getting some version of that back, so I'm excited about that. But we're going to get Batista versus Triple H at WrestleMania. And it's going to go like 30 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't want to see those two 50-year-old guys, however old they are, go for 30 minutes because you know Triple H has to get in his time at WrestleMania to make his match seem like some sort of classic. And I don't want to see those two 50-year-old guys go at it. And man, it's going to go down at WrestleMania, and hopefully they put some type of stipulation on it, some type of no disqualification stipulation on it to protect both of the guys. But 30 minutes between those guys at WrestleMania, I don't want to see it happen. But the segment itself, phenomenally done. Rarely do we do backstage segments anymore that end WWE Raw. That used to be the norm back in the 90s. It leaves, especially when something physical, when something violent happens backstage and it leaves it on a hook, that is well done. They need to do more of that in this era, if I'm being quite honest with myself. Next up, we have at least, my next takeaway is that at least they are trying to build the women's division tag team championship matchup. So we had Nia Jax versus Bayley, and I got to say that Nia Jax, it seems like she only has, this is just my opinion, my humble opinion. Seems like she only has chemistry with Ronda Rousey for whatever it is. That does not it seems like that does not translate with the rest of the roster, and that's shocking to me because we have women that are just as athletic as Ronda Rousey, but they don't quite have the bulk of Ronda Rousey. But you would think that would translate to the rest of the roster. But whenever Nia Jax gets into the ring with somebody else, it is just not a good match. And that's what we have with Bayley here. It's just not a match that I was interested in. And Nia Jax's offense itself is just not something that I'm very interested in. Not something that is very appealing to me. But with all of that being said, Bayley picked up the win with the elbow drop. We are continuing to build with Bayley and Sasha versus Nia Jax and Tamina. I'm not really interested in it, but I'll at the least give the match a chance at Fastlane. We'll see how it all turns out from here. Now, next up, we have two takeaways that are intertwined together. My third and fourth takeaway is Dean and Drew McIntyre again, and the reformation of the Shield. So, starting with Dean and Drew McIntyre again. Dean Ambrose is getting a rematch for what reason again? Dean Ambrose got squashed. So, I don't have a problem per se with Dean Ambrose and Drew McIntyre, but when you put it on a backdrop on the fact that Dean Ambrose got squashed the week before, it's like, why are we doing this again? Now, the match itself was decent enough. I didn't have any problems with it. They got the crowd involved. Now, it ultimately ended in pretty much a no decision, but that brought out Elias. Again, he waylaid Dean Ambrose. We had the beatdown going down on Dean Ambrose. That brought down Lashley. And Drew McIntyre, we had three guys beating down on Dean Ambrose. And the first thing I say is, Rollins and Reigns better not come out here and save Dean Ambrose. And then all of a sudden I hear burn it down. And then I hear Roman Reigns' music play. And the first thing I do is, you cannot be telling me, you've got to be kidding me, that these guys are coming down to save Dean Ambrose, the same guy who turned on Seth Rollins after they won the tag titles the night of Roman Reigns' announcement. So they saved Dean Ambrose, and I didn't say this last night, but I've come to appreciate it this morning. I appreciate the fact that they didn't immediately fist bump with Dean Ambrose. I do appreciate that. They gave him a nice long stare, a cold stare at that. So I appreciate that part of storytelling. However, I understand that we drop wrestling storylines all the time, and they're not necessarily dropping this one, but when it comes to Dean Ambrose doing all of that, I just cannot look past it and be like, oh, okay, they're reforming the Shield, cool. No, man, Dean Ambrose was that guy that did all of that, and he gets saved without an apology, without anything going up to Seth or Roman and saying, I'm sorry for my actions. If they did something like that, then I guess they could have came out and saved Dean Ambrose, but nothing, and they still saved Dean Ambrose. Doesn't make much sense to me, but hey, that's just me. I'm going to try not to do too much complaining, but we'll see how this storyline goes from here. My next takeaway, my fifth takeaway is Strowman and Lashley. What was that? So we had Bobby Lashley versus Braun Strowman. It wasn't much of a match. The referee got ran off. Braun Strowman ran through Bobby Lashley and Leo Rush very quickly. And Braun Strowman just left from the ringside. Didn't care about picking up the win. Didn't care about any of that. And it's so sad because Braun Strowman was once the guy that was next in line. And once a guy that I was really behind. And like, here it is now. And it's like, I don't even care about Braun Strowman, if I'm being totally honest with you. I don't care about Braun Strowman. And they've completely dropped the ball with him. We'll see what happens with him going forward. Because at first he was in it with Lashley and Corbin and Drew, and now it looks like that's going to be taken up by the Shield. We'll see how that all turns out going forward. One thing better not happen is Strowman better not unite with the Shield. That's all I got to say on that. My next takeaways, we have 3 takeaways intertwined here. So 6, 7, and 8 takeaways. A moment of bliss, a meh moment of bliss. Leo Rush can go. And Bobby Lashley and Leo Rush break up again. So we're going to start with the first one. A moment of bliss. A meh moment of bliss. We had Alexa Bliss come down. And she had Finn Balor as a guest. And I guess Alexa Bliss's gimmick now is just to flirt with every guest. EC3 first, and now it's Finn Balor. And Leo Rush came down and broke this up. He came down and broke up some proceedings, if I could say that very clearly. Some proceedings was about to go down. But Leo Rush broke it up, came down talking about how all of this was a sham, and that Finn Balor did not deserve to be the Intercontinental Champion. So somehow Finn Balor turned this into Leo Rush must win a title shot. And somehow Leo Rush got mad at getting a title shot at the second most valuable championship on WWE Raw. Some might call it the most valuable championship, because Brock Lesnar is nowhere to be found. On Universal Champion is somewhere on a form, and I won't step it out from that thinking. Matter of fact, I would agree with that thinking. So Leo Rush has a shot. Forget what your plan was. You got a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. Be happy about it. So, the next takeaway, Lio Rush can go in the ring if they let him. So we had what was a pretty decent match between Lio Rush and Finn Balor, if I'm being honest with myself. I didn't get a whole lot of time, but it got just enough time to where Lio Rush had some good hope spots. He had a nice, and not just one splash through the ropes. He had quite a few topes through the ropes, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the match in general. Finn Balor would go on to pick up the win with the coup de grace, and it was well done. So the takeaway after that is Bobby Lashley, Lio Rush broken up again. So here we are. And look, 1 week, Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush, they're broken up. 1 week, they're together again, and they're working on the same page. And then the next week, and then this week coming up, Bobby Lashley is yelling at Lio Rush like a disappointed dad. And like, I know you didn't get the title shot, Bobby Lashley. Oh, well. Look, WWE needs to make up their minds. If they're going to break up Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley, then break them up and let Lio Rush go on to a singles run to which he can showcase his full abilities. If you're going to keep them together, then keep them together. Whatever you do, just be consistent about them. I don't need them breaking up and getting back together again every other week, like a couple or something like that. Be consistent. Go one way and be consistent, whatever you're going to do, WWE. So, my next two takeaways are intertwined as well, 9 and 10. Ronda Rousey did what? And Stone Cold Becky Lynch. So, we're going to start with Stone Cold Becky Lynch. The Riot Squad was out again, facing off with Natalya and Ronda Rousey. And I got to admit that when I seen the pairings that were about to go down, I was like, the Riot Squad versus these guys again. Like, the Riot Squad has to be better than just being served up to Ronda Rousey every time, or Natalya every time. Like, we can have the Riot Squad versus Bayley and Sasha for the tag team titles. I would have enjoyed that. Now, that would have been another pairing that we've seen quite some times again, but at least we have the tag team titles on the line to explain it out. This with Natalya and Ronda Rousey with nothing on the line, it's like, here we go again. But as it would pertain to this matchup, Becky Lynch would come down to ringside. She would interrupt every single thing. She would come down again with crutches and get involved, knocking out Natalya, then knocking out everybody. And I have a particular problem with this. We had Becky Lynch come down with the crutches at Elimination Chamber. She pulled the old trick on Charlotte, and she waylaid Charlotte with the crutches, and she went to town on Becky Lynch. And like, at that point, it's like, okay, Becky Lynch is not injured anymore. But we have this week, she comes out again in crutches, and it's like, why are they selling this? We do not believe the injury anymore. She sold it at Elimination Chamber. Why do they have her coming out selling it again? What is it exactly selling? Becky Lynch is not, quote unquote, injured anymore. So I have a problem with that, first of all. The other problem that I have is that they are actively trying to turn her into Steve Austin. It was one thing when they had Becky Lynch out there and her persona was giving off Steve Austin vibes, but what they were doing was that they were just letting Becky Lynch be Becky Lynch. They weren't trying to do things to turn her into Steve Austin. Now they are actively trying to do things to turn her into Steve Austin. They're having her arrested by officers. They're having her carried out by security guards, and they're just trying to have her be Steve Austin when having her be Becky Lynch was working just fine. You don't have to write segments to where it's just like Austin. No, I don't want to see that. And there's a lot of people that don't want to see that. They just want to see Becky Lynch be Becky Lynch. And they have a convoluted storyline here when they should have just had Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch wants to be the man. Ronda Rousey is the quote-unquote man. Let's fight. And that's it. That's all they had to do. But here we are, and here we stand with this injury storyline. We have to have Becky Lynch included some way, somehow. We'll see how it all turns out. So my next takeaway was Ronda Rousey did what? Ronda Rousey did that. So Ronda Rousey came down and look, she wasn't having it. She wanted her a piece of Becky Lynch. And she went to Stephanie McMahon and said, look, you need to make the match. I don't care what's going on. I want Becky Lynch. So it's interesting because she called out Vince, but we got Stephanie, of course. So here it is. Ronda Rousey wants Becky Lynch. Stephanie doesn't give her Becky Lynch. She says Becky Lynch is on her way to jail, not on the road to WrestleMania. She says she will be watching WrestleMania from jail, which is a kind of funny visual. But what we got was Ronda Rousey laying down a championship in the middle of the ring. So I saw that and I was like, what? Say what? And the only way that they can explain this one is that Ronda Rousey dropped the title. And until Ronda Rousey gets what she wants, Ronda Rousey is no longer the champion. She has to stand by that now. And it's quite interesting to see what they will do. I'll give them that. It's interesting to see what will happen with Ronda Rousey dropping the belt. That situation is the title in abeyance, like Triple H would once say. We'll see next week. It was an interesting segment. I think Ronda Rousey was too fast with her words. When she goes too fast, she tends to trip up with her words. And like, if I would give, like, someone back there has to give Ronda Rousey the advice to just slow down when she cuts her promos, because she comes off as fierce, yes, but when she starts tripping over her words, it's like, what exactly is Ronda Rousey saying here? I don't quite get it. It's like she's trying her best, but she's just going too fast. So another takeaway that I missed out on was, this is it for Kurt Angle? This is it? This is where we're getting. This is the 11th takeaway. It was Kurt Angle versus Jinder Mahal. And Jinder Mahal had an open challenge. He wanted anybody from the locker room. Had himself an open challenge to trash Ric Flair. So Kurt Angle came down. And it wasn't a squash, but it might as well should have been a squash. Because Kurt Angle ran through Jinder Mahal, and I was not interested in this whatsoever. Only went a couple of minutes. Then he ran through the Singh brothers as well. Who cares about this? You know, the rumors are out there that Kurt Angle is possibly going to be a retirement match at WrestleMania. And this is how we're getting there with Kurt Angle. Like, we can't do anything interesting with Kurt Angle outside of Jinder freaking Mahal. Like, I'm not interested, and I'm pretty sure no one else is interested in that as well. Moving on, the 12th takeaway is, I am not interested in Elias whatsoever. Like, come on, man. Elias is just sitting there, and like, we've been running this segment for weeks upon weeks upon weeks now. Like, he starts to get into the segment. Lacey Evans interrupts him. She does the Simpsons gif where the old guy walks into the pub and it walks right back out. That's her gimmick now. Like, and I don't care about that whatsoever. And then Dean Ambrose interrupts Elias. And that was at the point to where Dean Ambrose made his match. He wanted a rematch. I don't understand why he got it, but he got the rematch anyways. And then Ambrose eventually laid him out with the Dirty Deeds. What are we doing with Elias? And at this point, I don't really care about Elias whatsoever. So moving on, my next takeaway is the Revival lose again. We had Aleister Black and Ricochet, versus the Revival. And it was a fantastic match. It didn't go very long. It only went about 2 to 3 minutes. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. The start before the commercial break was very hot. It had the crowd really invested into it. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Aleister Black. I love me some Ricochet. But you should have put him in there with a tag team that's pretty much going nowhere. Why not put him in there with Hawkins and Ryder, for goodness sakes, or somebody that's going nowhere? Instead, you have the Revival, who just won the tag titles, lose 2 weeks in a row clean, and that's just not good business. That is not best for business, in their words. You can't have the tag team champions losing like that cleanly 2 weeks in a row after winning the tag team titles. I do not like it. So the last takeaway, the 14th takeaway, the big dog is back. You can check out my reaction video to this. It's up on YouTube. You can check it out. But Roman Reigns came back and he got cheers out of this world. The crowd loved the guy, and he could not even get to his speech. He talked about his battle, how it was tough for him to come back, how he didn't really want to come out publicly with it, and how when he did it, he got so much adulation and so much feedback, wishing him well, and the prayers that done him well. And it was such a fantastic segment. And when the guy said, "I'm in remission, y'all," just the crowd lost it and exploded. And I was just sitting here. You can check out the reaction. I was just sitting there with a smile on my face. I could not wipe it away if I wanted to, because it was just such a fantastic moment, and it was so well done. And I enjoyed every bit of this segment. And there were people questioning whether he should come out in the ring and should do it publicly. Yes, he should do it publicly. He made the announcement publicly, so he should have made this announcement publicly as well, excuse me. So I enjoyed every bit of this. I'm happy Roman Reigns is back, and I cannot wait. Like, I have my problems with them teaming up with Dean Ambrose. I don't like that necessarily, but I cannot wait till Roman Reigns gets back into the ring. It was great to see him get physical on Monday night. And we'll see how it goes going forward. Roman Reigns is back. This was a phenomenal segment. I loved every single bit of it. So that was my Raw review, my top 14 takeaways from Raw. Let me know your thoughts down below on Monday Night Raw. Let me know all of your thoughts, whether they be in the comment section on YouTube or on Twitter at 2SweetPod or at OMGCoreyB. Let me know your thoughts on Monday Night